Hi, this is Craig Lang with Video Blog Week 28, The Disease of the White Man, Compassion and the Cure. Some solutions. One solution, eat better food. Better, quote unquote, sort of a misnomer word. We at Health Alchemy, HEALTHALKEMY, healthalchemy.com, we hear, talk about the relativities of the word better, and I eat good, and I hear that a lot. And I think the relativity of what we've been told is healthy is partially ignorance and partially a lie handed down from high above. So we need fresh foods, and part of that, we can't think clearly if we don't eat fresh foods because we're not getting the nutrients out of the food. And if we don't think clearly, then we're more susceptible to diseases of all sorts. And if we have diseases down there, i.e. overgrowth of microbes that don't feed our body and our intestines, then they're going to poison the enteric nervous system, which is the nervous system around the gut, which has as many nerves as the brain. And that's another thing we're not conveniently not told. And then the vagus nerve, which is the bridge between the gut and this brain, sort of gets a bit corrupted by the overflow of signals that are irritating and inflaming, and then we get, I don't know how many times I hear brain fog and all that. So one cure is to eat fresh foods. And so, it's one thing to have fresh ground flour foods. It's one of the big things that no one's talking about, and that once you grind anything down to a flour, especially wheat and grains, the flour is rancid. The oils in there are rancid within a week to 10 days. So it's basically stale in a week to 10 days. So, start asking questions about your flour foods and your crackers and your bagels and your muffins, the epidemic of the carbs out there. And you're going to find out that 90 to 99% of what you're eating is stale and causing inflammation. Then there's the oils we put in our body. If you see canola or soy or anything other than coconut, butter, organic lard, sesame, olive, hemp, flax, chia, those are the main ones that we use in my practice. Anything other than that is basically going to be inflammatory, and there are exceptions, of course. I can't name off every oil on the planet, but as long as it's raw and refined, and if you're going to cook your oils, just make sure you're using saturated fat. You don't want to cook with chia seed oil or flaxseed oil or bake with it. That's why saturated fats are best baked with, because they're stable. So if you're a vegan, you can bake with palm oil or coconut oil or shea butter or cocoa butter. Those are good fats for baking. Doesn't mean you have to go to animal fat to get saturated fat. And your baking goods. So a couple of solutions there. Then another solution is to begin to question the conditioning upon which we've been brought up with. And that's one of the things that I began to question. I was sort of forced into it, into a college class. I believed in manifest destiny, and that the Americans were destined to sort of rule this continent. And, we weren't. There was a mass slaughter of Indians that is sort of hidden from us, as many as the Jewish people were slaughtered by Hitler and the Germans. And it just kind of goes under the radar, in that just acknowledging the grief and the sadness of what was done in the name of manifest destiny, and that peoples are still being subjugated. So, the disease of the white man is partly just waking up out of the ignorance and the denial and the delusion that, we are the apex and the pinnacle of human evolution. I believe we are not. So, another solution is just to love and to see the love that's right here. As I sit here talking into the camera and feeling the connection of myself with the earth and myself with the stars, and this present moment is all there really is, and just acknowledging the sacredness of that connection and the gratitude and the value of having a life. There's a certain power in that. And when you talk about, I gave a talk once to a charter school over in San Jose many years ago, about an hour from here, in the valley from the coast where I live in Santa Cruz. And one of the things, there were a few Native Americans present, and they said that was powerful medicine. And I didn't want it to be powerful medicine. I was just speaking my truth, and the truth about nutrition and plants and our connection to the earth being lost. So that's another part of the cure, is to reconnect with the earth. And even if it's just a matter of a few minutes a day or a few times a week going out in nature and connecting with the trees and the water, and sitting by the ocean, hearing the sound of the waves, or even just if you live in an apartment complex in a city, you can still connect with the sky and sit out on the porch and take a break on your lunch break and go for a walk with the bare feet. And there's a great value in that. And then another certain solution would be to rub your feet. I was thinking about how the claims that and some of the stories about how a lot of the great spiritual teachers would have their feet washed or rubbed, or Jesus, some stories about him washing people's feet. And there's something really valuable in there about getting your feet worked on so you can connect with the earth a little bit more, and again, keeping your belly clean and cleansing, and so that your head can think more clearly and be connected with this end, and the feet connected with the lower end. And those are some of the solutions. It's not a long video blog this week. It's mainly just orienting to, one, acknowledging that it's like the alcoholic who needs to acknowledge that he's got a problem, is acknowledging that the conditioning upon which we're brought up with is faulty and meant for a certain amount of slave mentality. Go out and buy your capitalistic goodies and be a slave to the corporate boss and work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, which, when you actually interview native peoples around the globe, which are, mostly gone, disappeared, but we're taught that they lived in a certain sense of fearful anxiety about how they're going to get their next meal, or how they were going to build their house, or maintenance, or animals. And they tell a different story than what we're taught when they're actually interviewed, as I've been learning more and more in the course of my life. And that they worked for survival on the average 12 to 18 hours a week. How much do we work here in the West? Well, 40 to 60 to 80 hours a week. If you include commute, then you might even add 5 to 10 more hours a week of just driving time. And we talk about them living in fearful anxiety. It's like, oh no, we're the ones living in fearful anxiety, and we don't even know it. We believe we're free, but there's just a certain amount of rich people that own most of the wealth and the land. And if you go really, really to the top, then there's really a few rich families that are really running things. And the solution is not to hate them or rebel against them necessarily. It's just to acknowledge that they're not needed anymore. We don't need their ruling ways and control. I see a vast change occurring on the planet, and I have a lot of hope, especially when I talk to some young people that are waking up through the Mankind Project, a large group of men, over 50,000 strong now. Just there's some young people in this organization, and young women I meet here in Santa Cruz, and then just the internet's a really powerful tool. We don't need the bankers and the control and the insurance and the broken medical system. We just need to help each other and use technology in all of its greatness. And there are solutions to energy and transportation and food growing that are already here. We're just not being told what they actually are. And on top of that, we're actually being poisoned in the atmosphere, and in our waters being taken away. And so, it sounds like a lot of negativity, but sometimes you got to hear the brutal truth, like Al Gore's movie, The Inconvenient Truths. You got to hear those, and so you can move on. And my role and my certain mission is to still love, and just to live my life and not dwell on all the bad, but still to know it's there and to keep moving. So that's the cure for the disease of the white man, as the natives put it. And love, and find a way to help what you eat, help your neighbor, and begin to acknowledge that you've been conditioned and brainwashed in some ways. And next week we'll be talking about some other things here on the video blog of Mr. Craig Lane. Take good care, folks.